you give it up to Tony?
Love it. Man, that was a hell of an intro. I gotta live up to that hype, I guess. How's everybody doing? Good? Who flew here from another state or drove here from another state? Okay, there's a portion of you raising your hands that will end up in Scottsdale, Arizona. It happens every time. You know, me and Eric grew up in Illinois outside of Chicago. I moved to San Diego in 2008 after the crash. I was an electrician, did a little time in the joint, had some troubled past, and then moved to California. Same thing Eric said about all the doubt that you're gonna hear from everybody, right? And that's where the fear comes in. It's somebody else's perspective that we let dictate our fear. And the more you listen to people that are in a spot you don't wanna be, the more you're gonna have that self-doubt. The only person we need to listen to is ourselves. And we have to understand that negative voice in our head is just like if that was a roommate that you had that was constantly telling you you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or this isn't for you, you should only make this amount every year, you're only qualified for this. Would you live with that person very long, or at some point would you be like, I gotta get the fuck out of here, or get this guy evicted, because it's not serving me well? So have a relationship with that negativity in your head and block that shit out. Act like it's a person and just grab the positivity from your own perspective, because that's all we can control. We can't control other people's perspective, that fucking toxic shit that we let into our minds. Block that shit out, block the negative energy, and believe you can do this. I was out in San Diego for 13 years. I built a very successful bicycle company out there in California. Ran it for 15 years, sold it. We did direct import from overseas. I went to China, toured all these factories. I had retail shops, a lot of success. And literally with, you know, fresh off of 4 felonies. I had a class X felony, and, you know, I'd just gotten out of jail, and I went out there and I started from scratch, and all I did was work really hard. That's all it took, and learned a lot and took action. And then when Eric and Shyla came to me, they said, and me and Eric had been chatting the last few years. He was going through a lawsuit, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But during this time, I was getting kind of burned out on California and the communism out there during COVID. And I was ready to get out of California. I was ready to get out of the bike business, just made a bunch of money during COVID. And Eric was ready to do something else. And we're throwing all these ideas at each other. Like, what can we do together? Let's team up and do something together. We were gonna start a petting zoo. We were gonna start a chain of barber shops was an idea. I had all these ideas because of my connections in China, of like importing products and doing distribution. And Eric kept always going back to some type of phone sales because that's what he knew. And he came to me finally in 2020, I think, the end of 2020. And he's like, you ever heard of wholesaling real estate? And I was like, no. And he goes, well, you can actually get properties under contract over the phone, and you never even buy the house. You could just take that contract and find an investor and make like $20,000 just finding an investor for it. And I was like, hey man, I just, you know, got out of jail a few years ago. Am I gonna end up back in jail? He's like, no, this is perfectly legal. I don't even get it, but let's try it. And he went out on his own, got some leads coming in, proved the concept, started getting contracts. He was using a company to help him get rid of them. And then I was trying to get Eric and Shyla to move here to Scottsdale. I was still in San Diego, and I'm like, dude, Scottsdale, let's move to Arizona. And Shyla put the kibosh on that. And she said, we got a whole family out here on the East Coast. You're single, you don't got any kids, you can move out this way. And we ended up in Raleigh, North Carolina to start our first business. And it was, you know, I talk a lot of shit about Raleigh in the South, deservingly so. I'm not gonna back down from that. But I will say that it was the best decision I ever made. in my life. I'm happier now than I was ever in my life. And it was because of Shyla Klein. So everybody give it up for Miss Shyla. She knew I was going to be so bored in North Carolina that all I could do is work. So that's what I did out there. And I'll tell you guys this, I didn't know anything about wholesaling other than what this guy was telling me, which wasn't a lot. And I literally made a decision on a phone call where I was like, yeah, I'll move out there. Let's figure this out. And I'm leaving a company where we had just made $1 million in 2020, like net. And I'm leaving all that behind to take a chance on Eric and Shyla because I believe in them so much. I saw what they did with their last business, and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for it. I didn't overthink it. I didn't let people get in my head. I didn't let that negativity get at me. I just said, I'm gonna make a decision. I'm gonna lease a place out there. I'm gonna tell the guy I'm renting a house at in California that, hey, I'm gonna be moving out right now. I booked the movers. I did everything like within 2 days. I had everything done so I didn't even have to think about it anymore. There was no more decisions to be made. I was doing this. And on my way out to North Carolina, Eric had sent me some recordings, so I'm like listening to the pitch over the phone. I was listening to Jerry Norton. I was watching Real Estate Disruptor podcasts. Like I'm just trying to wrap my head around the information. Get out to North Carolina. It's just Eric in this office, our first office out there. And Eric's kind of a nervous guy. I don't know if any of you know that. But he's like locked in this back room in this office. I like walk in there the first day and he's like, yeah, dude, I locked the front door. I locked my office door. I'm scared somebody's going to get me. And I'm like, well, I'll at least be your bodyguard in this office. So I get in there, and for 2 days, I just listened to Eric pitch. And I had the script in front of me, which looked way different back then. And I listened to him on the phones, and I'm like, okay, I've never sold anything over the phone. I don't know a damn thing about real estate. I had never even bought a house. But I listened to him for 2 days. I went back to my apartment that second day, and I started getting like anxious listening to him the second day. And all this doubt started hitting me again. And I'm like, can I really do this? Eric's been doing this for a long time. I fucking sell beach cruisers at the beach and look at girls in thongs, and now I'm fucking buying houses over the phone. So that nervousness started, that fear, that self-doubt started, and I meditated on it, and probably for like an hour. And I started going through all these conversations in my head I was gonna have on the phones, and then I went to bed that night knowing 100% I was gonna get a deal the next day. And then I walk in the next day, I open the CRM, I called the first number, and I got a contract on my first call. And I proved the point, but I took action, right? And, Eric was saying it earlier where, everybody in this room is qualified. Like, I didn't know a fucking thing of what I was even saying. I was just following a script. The guy I was actually on the phone with lived in Memphis, Tennessee. He owned a duplex there. And I was trying to buy this guy's duplex, but I had the wrong lead pulled up in the CRM. I kept telling him his house was in Jacksonville, Florida. And he kept saying, no, Tony, it's in Memphis. I'm in Memphis. I'm like, I'm sorry. Gary, you're in Jacksonville, Florida. And he's like, no, I'm in Memphis. So I could relate to him, though. I didn't, what I lacked in real estate knowledge, I made up for in just creating a relationship over the phone. Sales is just relationships. And like in dispositions, which is what I do mainly, that's going to be a long-term relationship you have with your buyers, right? You gotta stay in touch with them. You got to bring them opportunities, bring them value, build that rapport. In acquisitions, it's a 45-minute relationship typically with the seller, but it is a relationship. Everything in the world that has been sold at least with 2 people involved. And there's some type of relationship. So sales is relationships. And this guy was telling me he was going through cancer. My brother was going through cancer at that time. And I just sat in that conversation and listened to him and felt empathy for him. And he ended up liking and trusting me enough to sign a contract. And I think we made $9,000 on that deal. It actually got disposed. So for me to be able to come into this industry knowing nothing, if anybody's ever heard me read out loud, you would think I had a traumatic brain injury at some point in my life. I'm not educated. My family comes from Sicily. My grandfather who raised me was a bookie. You know, I come from a long line of degenerate, Sicilians. I'm Sicilian. I can talk shit about them. My dad was a truck driver. My grandparents couldn't read or write English. My dad drove a truck, worked in a factory for 35 years, never missed a single sick day. Real hard workers, not highly educated. My mom cleaned houses. She never graduated high school, right? So that's where I come from. And for me to be able to get into this industry and get a contract my first call, that means everybody can do it. Cool? So let me give you guys a rundown on the event today. We're gonna go over marketing. Eric's gonna go over his sales process. I think we're gonna have Sean and Courtney up talk about marketing strategies and their journey. So today, we're gonna take you guys these next 2 days through our entire process. Like, I love these events because we literally give away the sauce. And a lot of people find a lot of success just coming to this event and just learning. So keep your cell phones away. If you gotta make a call, go out there, pay attention. Give whoever is up here respect and attention, because we don't have to be here right now. We're here for you guys. We're serving you. So let's all respect each other. We respect you enough to serve you, respect us enough to pay attention. So we're gonna go over marketing and sales today. Tomorrow's gonna be me and Shyla going over TC, closing, systems, processes, admin stuff, dispositions, everything on the back end after sales and marketing. So you guys are gonna get our entire playbook over these next 2 days. So pay attention. This is all the information you need to make millions of dollars. Cool? All right? All right. Give it up for Eric Klein, and he's gonna go over marketing.
All right. It's gonna be a jam-packed day full of learning, okay? Real quick, just get a survey of the room. Who's actively doing deals right now? Okay. Who in here is doing a minimum of $20,000 a month? Pay attention to the hands that are up, everybody.
Raise them high.
Raise them high. Who's in here doing a minimum of $50,000 a month? Who in here is doing a minimum of $100,000 a month? Okay? We got 2 hands up. Who in here is doing? We got 3 hands up. Who in here is doing a minimum of, what was it, 100? $200,000 a month. Have you done 200 before? Yeah, last month. Go, boom, 5 grand up. Let's go. Where was Sean Toronto? His hand would have, I could keep going, but how old are you? 19. Oh, yeah, he was 19 years old, y'all.
What's up, guys? TONYMONT here at our Wholesale bootcamp event, where for 2 full days we pull back the curtain and from A to Z give away our entire wholesale process. We were able to do about $9 million in less than 4 years in assignment fees. So if you want to learn from the best, make sure you click the link in the description, and I'll see you at the next one, and I'll see you at the top.